What's up people, it's Wasabi and I'm back with another review. Today's mouse was sent to me by G-Wolves. Thank you G-Wolves. But as always with the content on this channel, these are my thoughts, personal opinions and experiences with the product. And today we have the G-Wolves HTR 8K. Now before we get on with the review, here's a quick look at the packaging because that's what you pay for too. First you got this envelope with a couple of things inside, a quick guide with some technical specs, 2 sets of full skates and a set of dot skates. This is not an accessory by the way, it's silica gel, so please do not eat it. 2 sets of stickers to seal the bottom of the mouse, a set of full grip tapes and a couple of universal cutouts. You get this very nice case, looks inspired by Rimowa, pretty cool. Inside you got a sling strap for the case if you ever decide to carry your mouse around or maybe just use it as a personal carrier, why not? Braided USB-C cable, very nice and bendy. An 8K wireless receiver, an extra cable. I guess if you decide to use the case as your personal carrier, you can keep this inside just in case you need to charge your phone. And finally, you have the HTR 8K itself. And that's pretty much all that's included inside the box. Now, before we go any further, let's manage some expectations here real quick. G-Wolves is a Chinese company that makes high-performance gaming mice, and they had a pretty rough start, not gonna lie. But also, their mice have been very popular amongst gamers, and you'll still see quite a few esports professionals using a G-Wolves mouse. Today we have a very interesting concept of a mouse design for the Fingertip Grip Style user. How it's designed, as strange as it sounds, is what I would call a right-handed ergonomic shape for a fingertip user. It has an extremely lightweight build of 28 to 29 grams depending if you go with or without holes in the sides, and there is a slight difference in price between the two options. Without holes it comes in at a price of $149 and with holes it's priced $10 more. My first impression of this mouse is that it kind of looks like a golf ball in the shape of a heart. This mouse is very uniquely designed and truly one of a kind. Now first off, this thing is small, like really small. Here's what it looks like next to an iPhone 12 and here it is next to AirPods. Now just by looking at the curves and the angles of the shape, you can tell that it's designed to give a fingertip grip style user the best ergonomic comfort. The grooves of the mouse buttons are very nicely curved and you can feel it all the way up to the back of the mouse. Honeycomb pattern design on the mouse is there to reduce weight and it gives some level of grip. And what's good about the base here is that even though there are guidelines to position your skates, the base is pretty much flat, so you have quite a lot of freedom to explore different skate configurations, except for the midpoint because the cutouts here are pretty huge. I gotta say that this is the lightest and strongest feeling mouse I've ever used, because with a small size like this, they don't necessarily need to reduce the thickness of the shell, and also the size and shape allows the mouse to have a higher level of structural rigidity. They have an option for holes in this build and it's lighter by 1 or 2 grams, not too sure how strong that one feels, but this one is incredibly strong even at its base. No wobble in the mouse buttons, scroll wheel or side buttons, everything is very well put together in my unit. Before I go into more detail with the shape and how it feels from my experience, to put things into perspective, my hand size is 17.5 by 9. Gotta say that with this mouse, I'm enjoying using a fingertip grip style quite a lot now, and it's a very accommodating shape for the fingertip grip. Again, the grooves of the mouse buttons go up pretty high, and that's good because then you got a lot more freedom to place your index and middle finger on the buttons without losing out on the support of the shape. It is a very odd looking mouse, but as you continue to use it game after game, you start to appreciate the shape because it makes your fingers feel very well positioned. And for sure, it has a lot better ergonomics for fingertip grip style compared to something like a regular shaped mouse. The sides curve into a pointy rear design, and what's great about this is that you have more space to move the mouse around before it hits the side of your palm. What's interesting is that G-Wolves has this molding clay which you can use to in a way alter the shape for a perfect fingertip grip, and it sounds a little odd, but you gotta say that it's pretty creative. Now this part is to help people visualize the different grip styles on the HTR 8K with reference to my hand size. Not a mouse I'd imagine using a relaxed claw or regular claw grip, but surprisingly for smaller hands, you might be able to do an aggressive claw grip here. But instead of the mouse contacting your palm, you rest the joint of your index finger right against the tip of the hump, and it actually feels pretty good. For a palm grip, it's a huge no-no with a mouse of this size. I mean, just look at how small it is if I try to do a palm grip. The fingertip grip style is where this mouse mouse really shines, the grooves of the mouse buttons and the curves of the shape feel good to hold, and you really get a good sense of the ergonomics for this particular grip style here over a regular shaped mouse. What's interesting for me is that I sometimes find myself using a mix of fingertip and aggressive claw grip with this mouse. I don't know if this is something you can do with larger hands, but when I need the extra pressure down on the pad for slow tracking, I would push the joint of my index finger onto the tip of the hump. Stated weight on the website is 28 to 29 grams, and with my unit with the dot skates that come pre-installed, it weighs in at 29.4 grams. This mouse doesn't seem to have a coating, or at least from what I can feel. I definitely recommend using the grip tapes they included or any set of your own, because for me the sides are slippery even though it has a honeycomb pattern, and I don't get much grip from the mouse buttons either. What I like is that the grip tapes have universal cutouts, so you can place them specific to how you position your fingers. Grip tapes like these are also great for people who want to keep the weight of the mouse to the bare minimum. These grip tapes are on the thicker side, so if you find the grip tapes to be too thick, you can always explore aftermarket universal grip tapes if you prefer thinner grips. You got Huano blue shell pink dot mechanical switches, and there is no pre-travel with just a little post-travel towards the end. Very nice and satisfying to click, though they need a moderate amount of force. That is something to keep in mind if you prefer light clicks with a fingertip grip. Personally, I enjoy lightweight clicks with a fingertip grip style because it's a lot easier to click when I extend the mouse forward. And on the crispy meter, with the way they sound and feel, I would put them right about here. The side buttons are very tactile and a little on the harder side. They were much stiffer when I first got them, but they did soften out over time. And there is little to no pre or post travel with these side buttons. These side buttons are tiny, by the way, which may be a problem for users with larger fingers. I noticed that with the positioning of the side buttons and the shape towards the back of the mouse, the rear side button sits on the point where the back of the mouse curves in. And this makes rolling your thumb on the side buttons feel a little difficult, and reaching for the back side button feels a little awkward. The scroll wheel is very nice to use. It's nicely tensioned and steps are very distinct without it feeling too raw when you scroll. And the scroll clicks are pretty decent. The rib dots on the rubber thread give a nice amount of grip. It's not super grippy, but it's just enough that you should not experience slipping. One thing to note is that when I have my fingers positioned further up towards the tip of the mouse buttons, I found myself to use the mid of my finger for scroll clicking, which feels a little strange from what I'm used to. The HTR 8K is using a PAW 3395 sensor. The sensor latency performance, according to their test results, comes out on top of pretty much every mouse on the market today. Now we are talking about milliseconds here, which for some gamers is not so important, but for those who want the absolute best performance, this is one that should catch your interest. Personally, for click and sensor latency test results, I would wait for Artings to announce their findings. But in short, the sensor has been performing perfectly fine, and with the shape and weight of the mouse, this thing feels like a pointer. As you can tell from the name HTR 8K, this mouse has 8000 Hz wireless pulling rate right out of the box with the wireless receiver, so you don't need to buy an additional dongle to use high pulling rates. Connectivity wise, you can use this mouse wirelessly or wired with the USB-C cable that comes included in the box. GWolves has a web-based software and it's pretty good. On the software is where you can reprogram the buttons, adjust the DPI up to 26,000, and you can set multiple profiles as well. You can adjust the debounce time, lift-off distance, and there's only two settings for lift-off distance. It's either low or high. You can adjust the pulling rate settings, and here is where you can see how much battery life you have left. There is this thing called LED state, and this lets you adjust the lighting effect of the LED on the PCB. I have the version without the honeycomb cutout, so I pretty much can't see the light, so I leave this off. The HTR 8K has 6 dots fitted on right off the box. They include an extra set of dot skates and 2 sets of full skates, and that gives you the choice between corner and wide skates. The dot skates are pretty decent with the smoothness in the glides and stopping power on my Zowie GSR SE. I tried it on my Artisan Zero Soft and Extra Soft, and just like with any dots, they sink into the pad way too easily for me. These dots have a very convex shape, so if you main a soft pad, the mouse comes with 2 sets of wide skates, which will help with that. It is nice that they include an assortment of skates, and it shows that they understand gamers use different pads, and by including different accessories, it allows gamers to enjoy the mouse right out of the box. So far, I've never experienced any issues with the performance of this mouse, and it's been very reliable for me so far. The mouse really feels like a pointer, and holding a mouse this small with the right sensitivity makes it feel very snappy. This really doesn't fall behind with the latest expectations with sensor tech. You got the option to use up to 8000 Hz wireless polling rate, but for most gamers, and myself included, 1 to 2000 is plenty enough, but it's always nice to have the latest in tech. The HTR is a mouse that I found myself enjoying in Overwatch 2 more than any other game, but for Valorant, for me, it was a little difficult because the fingertip grip style isn't something I use often. I tried it on a glass pad and it was too difficult to keep my aim steady, but on a cloth pad, I had no problems at all. By the way, the gameplay footage was from the first time I used this mouse, and I was surprised because with a mouse like this that's very new to me, I expected my aim to be pretty bad. Very odd looking mouse, but it's a fantastic little beast. So in conclusion, what are 3 things I like about this mouse? First off, I like what they did with the design. It's odd and unlike anything I've ever seen before. After using it daily for quite some time now, I can appreciate the form and function of the design, and I think it's great for them to try something new. You know, instead of doing the same thing as everyone, it's very refreshing to see something different. The second thing is the mouse accessories, and it's very generous here. You get an assortment of skates, full grip tapes, and some universal cutouts if you prefer, and this gives gamers some options to adjust the experience to their preference. And the last thing is the weight. With weight this low, it feels really good for a mouse of this size with a fingertip grip style. It's ridiculously light and doesn't fall short with how strong it feels, which are 2 things that are very important to gamers today. Now, what are 3 things I feel can be improved with this mouse? First are the side buttons, and I would have preferred the side buttons to be a little larger so you can easily press them without having to reposition your thumb. Second thing is that this mouse could really use a grippy coating. Some gamers, including myself, prefer not to use grip tapes if possible, but maybe they decided to do without it to keep the weight down. I'm not sure, but it would be very nice to see a grippy coating with this design. And the last thing are the switches. The mechanical switches on the HTR 8K are nice, but for me personally, I would prefer lighter switches for both the mouse buttons and side buttons for fingertip grip style. The HTR Pro, on the other hand, which isn't out at this time, is said to have lighter clicks and overall lighter weight of about 24 grams and a bit flatter with its design. But as always, these are my thoughts, personal opinions, and experiences with the mouse. Final thoughts and what I think of its value. Well, for me, while I do find it fun to use, fingertip mice is not something I prefer for gaming, and this is just something of a personal preference. But if you are someone who purely uses a fingertip grip style for gaming, it would be so much more value for you. The reality is that there aren't as many fingertip grip users compared to claw and palm grip styles, so many of the mouse releases are made for the majority, but I'm glad to see that a fingertip grip style user gets to use some pretty awesome stuff. This is a very well thought out design, and though it's not a mouse that suits my preference as a gamer, I hope they continue to improve this for many years to come for gamers who use the fingertip grip style. If the fingertip grip style isn't something you're comfortable with, don't force it, because again, this is about $150, but if it's within your budget and you're looking to try something really different, then this one's pretty fun. For gamers who made the fingertip grip style, this would be a lot more interesting for you, and the HTR Pro 8K as well, and that would be available soon, and it has a lot more interesting colorway options than this version. For all other grip styles, good news is that GWolves has some new regular shape mice that are launching soon, and if they can carry over the quality and excellent performance of this one, that would be very interesting. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful in any way, please leave a like and subscribe to support the channel, and I guess I'll see you in the next one.